Well, look, I could sit here and gloat like Nick Wright.
You should.
How could you
I
do
could
it?
sit
Do
here
it.
and say I
How?
told you so like Nick Wright.
How?
I could sit here and say how hard it is to always be right like Nick
But
Wright.
you've been wrong. You had Clippers in 5. You had Clippers in 5.
I don't care about the
No, he
game.
adjusted.
Win in advance.
He adjusted.
Win in advance. That's all that matters.
Oh,
and
okay.
you guys, all of you kind of mocked me earlier in the week after the Game 4 loss, and I told all of you you would bow. So I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm not going to gloat. I'm not going to brag. I'm just going to say I am glad that the real Clippers finally stood up. This is the team that I predicted to be the NBA champion. This is the best team in basketball. This is the team that Nick Wright fears in his worst nightmares. 2 tremendous two-way players on the perimeter. Toughness and physicality and very good shooting from the perimeter. This team finally woke up. And look, Doc Rivers, who had been getting schooled by Rick Carlisle throughout the series, I thought he pushed all the right buttons after Game 4 in the loss when he said, look, we were emotionally weak. I thought that was a good challenge in calling out of his players. And then he said, with Paul George, I want him to keep shooting. Shoot 20 or more times, Paul. Keep putting the ball up. I thought that was just what Paul George needed to hear, that his coach still had that confidence in him, even when he was lacking confidence. So, look, I will give Nick this. Nick said last week he wanted the Lakers to face Portland because it would force them to wake up and bring out their A game. I actually think both LA teams, the Clippers and the Lakers, got a much-needed wake-up call in the first round that forced both of them to start playing very good basketball or near their A game as they head on this collision course. And even though Nick somehow picked Denver, we'll see if they even get to the second round, to beat the Clippers, it is inevitable. Lakers, Clippers, Western Conference Final, and Clippers will prevail.
Okay, so a few things. It's very interesting take that the games don't matter, so I don't know why we pick series and games. We should just pick winners. But I do think what happened is you have 2 LA teams. Broussard had Lakers in 6, Clippers in 5. So the Clippers went across the hall at Staples, borrowed a game the Lakers didn't need. They're like, hey, you're not going to need this extra game. We kind of do. Can we have it? So it's kind of right. He's kind of right. I had Clippers in 6 go all along. And my question, though, would be this. Just quickly, Broussard. Because I said on this show yesterday to you and on Twitter right before the game that this had all the makings of a Clippers blowout. No Kristaps, their biggest game of the year. Luka coming off, it has to be an emotional downswing from where they were, all of that. So last night, maybe 154 points surprised me, but the Clippers dominating the game didn't surprise me. Are you confident, having watched this team all year, not just that they'll win Game 6, and they don't have to win by 40, but that we will see this level of effort, this level of execution, what you called the real Clippers? Or do you think they'll do what they've done all year long, which is see if they can get by with their C game? Because if you want me to start believing they're a real title threat, then I need to see them do this in at least back-to-back playoff games. I need to see them do this in Game 6. When Luka, we don't know what his ankle's like after Marcus Morris tried to maim him. We don't know if Kristaps going to play. Like, what is your confidence of if this version of the Clippers can be bothered to show up in back-to-back games?
So they need to win by 40 again? Is that what they need to do?
No.
Or 35,
no,
whatever it was?
I love it.
How about this? Not trail in the fourth quarter. Not have a game be nip and tuck throughout and they pull it out at the end, where they clearly look like the better team.
That even,
the way the Lakers have looked
not even a
every game after Game 1 of the Blazers series.
Look, I hate to do this again, but young analysts. Young analysts.
Oh, no.
Win in advance, Nick. I don't care if.
Okay, so you're not confident.
Hold on.
So you're not confident they'll look great.
No, I actually do think the Clippers will win by double figures. It won't be like this, but I think they'll win by double figures in Game 6. But here's my point.
How hard was that?
I don't care if they need a buzzer beater to win. It is about winning and advancing in the playoffs. Let me give you a little example. All right, 2008, The Boston Celtics, big three come together for the
I
first
knew this
time.
was coming.
Garnett,
7 in
Ray
the first
Allen,
round.
Paul Pierce. What happened? They go 7 with
7
Atlanta
in the first round.
in the first round. 7
Yep.
in the second round. And they end up winning the championship. Last year, Toronto needed a bounce from Kawhi Leonard on that game-winning shot in Game 7 to beat Philadelphia. And they go on to win the championship. So it is about winning and advancing in the playoffs. I get it. Young analysts on TV don't understand this, but I'm an old head. I've been covering the league for almost 3 decades. Trust the brother. Win in advance.
Brandon, jump in here.
So you've been covering the NBA for years. You're a dinosaur. You just said it's your words, not ours. All right. Are you shocked that Paul George? Did you hear his comments last night? Obviously you did. But are you shocked that Paul George came out and talked about battling anxiety and depression while in the bubble? Because we don't hear that from professional athletes. We've been talking about this the entire series. Like, where's Paul George? We've been talking about playoff P. And this guy comes out and says, listen, this is what I've been dealing with. I'm thankful for the support staff around me to get me through it. I feel, and I've said this for a very long time, that the professional leagues is one of the most volatile environments you can be in, because every single day it's about winning and losing. It's a billion-dollar industry with million-dollar athletes. One day you could be, hanging from the rafters, and the next day you could be cut. So I found that Paul George comments were interesting, powerful, courageous. And I want to get your thoughts on there, being this guy that covered the NBA for so many years, and this is kind of unprecedented.
No, look, I thought his comments were outstanding as well. He let us in, and it wasn't an excuse. I don't know if anybody's looking at like, oh, he's giving us an excuse why he didn't play well. No. I thought it was an explanation, which is really what it was, and I thought it was great because, as you said, guys do battle it with the pressure. I think he needs to stay off social media. I think that was a big part. I mean, we've seen him responding to people on social media. And here's what I say about that. You have to know what type of guy you are. Now, Kevin Durant can get on social media and look at what everybody's saying about him and still go out and play his absolute best basketball. I think early in LeBron's career, it wasn't social media so much, but I think LeBron let what people were saying get in his head and mess around with him, and he had voices in his head. And that's why I had to go to 0 dark 30 and all that stuff during the playoffs. Now, of course, he's overcome that. But Paul George, clearly, he let these voices get in his head. And I think that contributed. It may not have been 100% reason, but I think that contributed a lot to him being in, as he said, a dark place, because he was looking at what everybody was saying about him. He has to understand, that's not me. I need to leave that stuff alone. Just go out and play my game, and I think you'll be fine after that.
And he started doing that.
Broussard, can I?
Go ahead, Wells.
Can I add some fuel to your fire here, to your Clippers optimism? It wasn't only Paul George being totally transparent. The leadership that Doc had after the game in his post-game presser is one of the most impressive post-game press conferences I've ever seen in all of sports. And we know this team, like coming into the bubble, Kawhi said they tried to hang out because they didn't have a ton of chemistry, so they really went and tried to hang out. But between the refreshed chemistry, Doc's leadership, and Paul George's transparency and just being open, I think the Clippers can be far better of a team than we've seen so far. What do you think?
I totally agree. I mean,